Unemployment ticked ever so slightly higher to 4% in the December quarter. With us is Moody's analytics economist Harry Murphy-Cruz. Thanks for joining us, Harry. So, what do you make of this data and the headline figure 4%?
Yeah, really, I think the data today shows just the resilience in New Zealand's labour market at the moment. So, despite all the pressures that it's been facing, we only saw a very marginal weakening through the December quarter. So, as you mentioned, unemployment rose from 3.9% in the September quarter to 4% in the most recent data. Look, markets had expected a bit more of a weakening. Certainly the RBNZ also had expected more and really had actually hoped to see a little bit more weakness come through as they try to fight some of those domestic demand drivers of inflation.
Yeah, why wasn't it higher given we've got those rising levels of migration?
Yeah, so a lot of the weakening in New Zealand's labour market has come from big population growth that's outstripping general employment growth. But we're not seeing any kind of mass layoffs or big redundancies come through because we know that workers or employers, sorry, had kind of struggled through the pandemic with trying to find workers. There were skill shortages, and a lot of them now don't want to start shedding workers just as we might see that recovery come through towards the back end of the year.
What will the Reserve Bank of New Zealand make of this data?
Look, it's a real balancing act for the RBNZ. Obviously, they're trying to bring down inflation. They don't want to see a massive rise in unemployment. But at the exact same time, we do need to see unemployment tick up a little bit to help quell some of the drivers of inflation. So, look, I think they were expecting a little bit higher in terms of the unemployment rate coming through. The fact they didn't, look, it may push back potential rate cuts that we expect to start in August. It probably clouds that just a little bit, but I don't think it rules them out. I think we'll continue to see the labour market weaken through this year, likely ending up at around 5% by December.
So, rate cuts August may be pushed out to, say, November?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're still expecting 2 rate cuts this year, the first coming in August. The data we saw today, it suggests that maybe those demand pressures are going to stay around a little bit longer, but we still think that the labour market will weaken enough for that August cut.
Okay. What about the chances of any moves upwards this month?
I think unlikely. I think we haven't seen the necessary demand drivers to facilitate or to need a hike. Realistically, while the labour market didn't weaken as much as the RBNZ would have liked in December, it still has weakened considerably from that low point of 3.2%. We're seeing youth unemployment rise quite a bit faster, and look, young people, they're absolutely the canary in the coal mine for where the labour market will go. They're often the first to face the struggles of a weakening labour market. We're seeing that now, and that suggests that come in the next couple of months, we should see inflation continue to come down, particularly those domestic drivers, as the labour market weakens.
So what do you expect the Reserve Bank's tone to be this month?
I think it'll be much the same. I think it'll still be that the job isn't done, that there still is, the need for interest rates to stay where they are. And, they'll be particularly looking at the services side of inflation that's been very, very sticky, as opposed to goods, which has come down that little bit more. I don't think they're going to give us too much guidance as to when we'll see, a set in stone rate cut. But look, we do expect that to certainly be towards the back end of the year.
And what's the argument for 2 rate cuts this year? Why do you have 2 penciled in?
Well, the RBNZ, they went hard and they went early. If you look at it in the global context, the RBNZ really has been at the forefront of lifting interest rates. At 5.5%, they are one of the highest in the sort of global fight against inflation. That means they've been doing this for longer. That means that inflation, has been, that battle has been waged for a little bit longer than elsewhere. And households and businesses are, feeling the pain from that. We'll also see the Fed likely cut rates in May. When they start cutting, that will likely set the scene for cuts elsewhere.
And that includes Australia as well?
It does. So, Australia's fight against inflation really has come along in leaps and bounds recently. So we expect inflation to keep falling in Australia, ending the year at around 3.3%. We have our first cut in Australia penciled in for September and then another one in December.
But the risks to inflation are to the upside, especially on a global setting, especially with recent shipping in the Middle East?
Definitely. I mean, we're seeing those disruptions for shipping around the world. That has the potential to push up oil prices, has the potential to push up broader shipping costs. That's obviously not what central banks or households or businesses around the world want to see. We still think the progress has been made on inflation, and disruptions through the Red Sea will certainly or could potentially disrupt that, but I don't think it's enough to derail that fight.
Harry Murphy-Cruise, thanks for your time.
Thanks a lot.
For more content just like this and all the latest business and political news, head over to mbr.co.nz.